catching on.
I got to check everything I go.
All right, everything is live.
All right, so I should give up my deer in the headlight look and
Yeah,
start
I
talking.
think so. Yeah. That's the camera.
Is anybody online?
Yep.
Okay. Well,
I'll see if I can get access to chatting with that person here as you guys start away.
well, hello everybody. All three of us, it sounds like at this point. I'm Greg Duggan. I'm the town manager for Essex. With me is Dan Roy, finance director. And we're here to do a little coffee chat at Uncommon Coffee to talk about the proposed budget for fiscal year 2024 for the town of Essex. Let's see, I submitted the manager's proposed budget about a month ago to the select board back in November. And the select board had a workshop in early November. Whole-day workshop. We've since had three select board meetings where they've had the budget on the agenda and gone through and making a few adjustments here and there. Hoping to hear from the public, so hopefully we have a couple people here now, and hopefully some more will join us online and try to answer some questions and talk about it. Just to give a little intro and overview, this is the first time we're doing a budget without the Village of Essex Junction, so big change, big differences here. We're trying to set up a budget that's going to allow the town to maintain services, keep the services that it's used to, provide those services as cost effectively, as efficiently as possible. I think that we have a budget proposed that will do that. We ran into a few challenges this year. Here for the budget chat? Yes, please. Oh, please, grab a seat.
Hey, Ken, how's it going?
Just to reintroduce introductions, I'm Greg Duggan. I'm town manager.
How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Dan Roy, I'm the finance director. Good to meet you.
Thanks for coming. Great. So we're just talking about the select board has gone through a few budget workshops now. We're working through. It's the first budget without Essex Junction. That's one of the big challenges we faced in providing the cost-effective service is that we lost about 41% of our tax base. We also, other challenges this year, health insurance premiums are up by about 20%. And inflation, as I'm sure everybody knows, is hitting everything that's from our employment contracts to health insurance to cost of gasoline and heating, supplies, general supplies. So that's what we've been trying to work through. The budget, as of right now, let's see the latest numbers. The budget's at about 15.4 million. About 10.9 million of that is going to be raised by taxes. Our grand list is going down with the loss of the Essex Junction tax base. The budget's gone down as well, but because the grand list has gone down more than the budget, the tax rate we're looking at is 67 cents.
You said the grand list went down, you meant it went up.
Sorry?
You said the grand list went down.
Correct.
Down.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yep. And so that's a 22.6% increase on the property taxes. If there's any consolation of that on municipal, if there's any consolation of that, your municipal taxes make up about 25-30% of your total tax bill. The rest of it's education.
Right.
And that is to maintain services, keep the services intact. For the average home in Essex is a $280,000 assessed value. That would lead to a tax bill of $1,892. That's an increase of about $350. We realize it's significant. It is a lot. Some of the things we did to try to minimize that is we took a look at historical spending. Areas where we hadn't been spending, we've been budgeting. So, for instance, the Public Works Department had always had an overtime budget. They still do, but we took a look at what was historically there, and we reduced it to the average of historical spending. That's risky. If we have a bad winter, that's going to get overspent. When that money wasn't spent, we would use it to pave roads, to do other important projects in the town. We're going to be losing that buffer. Similar with fire, we took a look at actual fire responses, training responses, call volume, and
There's also the integration of a pay increase.
correct. Yep, the fire department.
There's a little bit of a pay increase for them as well. They hadn't had a pay increase in 5 fiscal years. Sorry, yes. Yeah, so for the fire department, there hadn't been an increase in their pay for a 5-year period. So there was a little bit of an update there that added to their line as well. But there's been a smoothing out and analysis of the amount of hours that they put in as well. So it's still relatively a stable budget, but there had to be an adjustment made for some of that pay as well.
Are we splitting that with the city?
Fire, we are not. So, we're splitting the cost two ways, two areas. It's the assessing department and the police department are both being shared with the city. We're also sharing some of the recreation services for half the year. We may extend the senior van service with the share with the city for the full year. That's up to them. They were meeting on their budget day yesterday, so hope to have some more information about that soon.
So our expense is just the fire department up on Saxon Hill?
This is just, yeah, correct. Yep.
Not the one by Ken?
No. And that was the town tax is always paid for just the town fire department. Village tax is paid for the fire department in the town and the village fire. So we're losing to 40% of that tax base. The last big thing we did budget-wise is the police budget, which is being shared with the city. It's on a per capita basis, so 48% is being paid for by Essex Junction, 52% by the town. The past few years, the police have a fair amount of turnover in their staffing levels and patrol and officers. We always budgeted for the number of officers that we should have, but we're often below that. So a couple of years ago, we started budgeting the police at about 97, 95% so we're not saving money that we're often not having. We brought that down to 90% this year. Again, that's a historical average. We're hoping that we'll get officers. I'm Greg Duggan. I'm the town manager.
Hi, I'm Dan Roy. I'm the finance director.
The new Sarah Mason.
I'm sorry?
The new Sarah Mason.
The new Sarah Mason,
Yes.
yes. Big shoes to fill, yes.
So we're just giving an overview of the budget, and we'll turn it over to questions in a little bit. But yeah, the last thing was the police department. So we're funding that at about 90%. We typically use about 90% of what's budgeted. So again, we're taking away the buffer there. If they have officers come in who are qualified, we're going to hire them and bring them up to speed. But we're trying to take a look at historical spending averages and budget based on that, save some money and try to keep that tax rate as manageable as possible. That's the overview. Happy to try to take questions and go from there.
So this doesn't include the education part of the property tax?
Correct. That's entirely Essex Westford School District. We have no say over that.
What capacity were you two guys in before this split?
Before this split, I've been the deputy manager for the town and village for about 5 years. I became the manager the end of February of this year for just the town.
And so for me as finance director, I just joined at the end of August. So I'm kind of new to the town budget itself. Obviously, Sarah, as you mentioned, she's been in the process, in the room with us, helping us out with the transition for me taking the position. But she's been involved in that process, and obviously she's a great historian for the town as well, and helping us establish these changes that we're going through.
Are we still sharing the municipal offices down there at 81 Main? We have our own?
Those are the town offices. We had a few village employees there back when we had been consolidating finance, primarily finance, town clerk. We do, with one city employee now in the town clerk's office. That's going to be ending on July 1st. Those are just the town offices. We're looking at, the select board is interested in a municipal complex and moving that into the town. So we've been looking at options there and possibilities. We're homing in on some sites and.
So we're getting the booth out of 81 Main?
No, the town owns that.
Okay.
The town's there. The town's set. Yes, the town owns that. So we're set. The question is, how long do people want to continue to go to a different municipality to conduct town business? That building is also, it works now, but it's tight. So we're trying to take the long-term view, and if we're going to move at some point, having someplace possible that we can move into. That's an additional cost. It wouldn't be, there's no expectation to have that cost affect taxes next year, but we're looking at if we are going to acquire land, what's the timeline there to pursue other opportunities, go after a bond vote. Not expected to happen in fiscal year 24, but we are looking down the road about where the right site is for municipal office in the future. But right now, town owns that. We are paying off a bond There was a bond for the police station back in 2014, I believe.
It's 14, yes.
Yeah. Not all of that money ended up being needed for the police station, so there was a vote at town meeting a year or two later. Reappropriated some of that bond money to do renovations at 81 Main Street. We're still paying that bond, but the offices are owned outright.
I don't want to hog it all, but I do have a bunch of questions. How is it that the town owns that 81 Main? It's inside city limits.
It's been inside the town. The city, when the city was part of the town, it was there. So the town offices were in the town of Essex. We've owned that since the 70s, I believe.
Yeah, but isn't the town line farther up to 15 up towards Fairview Estates?
It is, but before Essex Junction separated, that was part of the town of Essex. And so the town offices were in the town of Essex. I can't speak to how they were selected in the 70s, I think is when we moved in there, but they had been, there was town of Essex until 8 years ago, or 8 months ago, excuse me.
The new police station is that within the.
That's Essex Junction, that's in the city.
So both of our buildings.
Our big ones, we have, there's the library is in the town, Public Works is in the town, so we do have other facilities that are in the town of Essex, but town offices and the police station and our community justice center are all in the city of Essex Junction.
Don't have to pay the junction taxes.
No, right, correct.
So there's another question on all of those municipal buildings, whether it's town garages, fire departments, the police department, do those properties pay property taxes?
No. They do not.
If they were to pay property taxes, that would just come right out of our pockets. Because we support them.
Exactly.
We fund those businesses, so why should they pay us back?
I don't know. I'm just using logic. So,
Any other questions? I'll come back to you, but open it up. Any other questions?
Did you miss any valuable points coming in a little late?
All of the important stuff. I gave an overview of the budget, kind of looked at where we're at. We tried to present, Dan and I, and we worked with department heads. It's at the select board level now. We spent a good month and a half, 2 months, working with department heads, going through, working with Sarah Mason, who's a former finance director, and trying to go through the budget. We wanted to present something that was cost-effective, efficient, maintain services. We think we've done that. We are facing some financial challenges. The three primary ones are we lost 41% of the tax base with Essex Junction. Health insurance premiums are up about 20%. Health insurance premiums, about 20%. And inflation, which is everything from health insurance to our union contracts to our general supplies, our fuel. So those are the three big things that are driving the cost up. All told, we're looking at about a 22.6% property tax increase. It is on the municipal side. It's not your total tax bill. Most of the tax bill is school taxes. On the average home, that's about $350. We tried to take some steps to minimize that. We took away, we reduced overtime to historical spending. We don't get to use it for something else. If there's a bad winter, Public Works is going to be out there plowing, and we're probably going to overspend that. But we looked at historical average. Same with fire and police. We took a look at. I think I was talking about as you walked in. We took a look at historical staffing levels and funding levels and expenditure levels for the police, and we're funding them at about 90% of what's budgeted. So we're budgeting for the staff, or we're putting the staff in the budget, but we're discounting the fact that we often have openings and we're often not spending the full amount that's budgeted. So we're planning to not spend that, which brought the budget down a little bit.
And we are also using some fund balance reserves from prior years. So that's built into this current budget to help reduce the burden, the tax burden in the current year. Yeah, so there's an element of that as well.
And the tricky part of that is once we use that money, it's gone. So we're proposing $600,000 this year. We have about 1.3 that in fund balance, but the idea is to step that down or phase it out over the next few years, because otherwise, if you were just to use $1.2 million this year, You have to make that up next year. So that would cause a big spike. So we're trying to feather it in, feather it out, depending on which way you see it, so that it becomes manageable. The fund balance, that's our savings. So when the police doesn't spend 100% of their budget, that savings goes into a pot that's called fund balance.
So when you say feathering in, we take out the 600,000 for this year. Are you trying to gradually
Next
build
year,
it back up?
next year we would look at using 400,000, and then down to 200,000.
And eventually it's going to be gone.
Eventually, it will be gone. Yes.
Not a good idea.
Well, we always keep there's general accounting principles called you want to have a certain amount of fund balance that's undesignated, that you don't touch, that's there for the emergencies.
Right.
We target 15%. So we're talking that 1.2 million is above and beyond that 15%.
And this is not representing our full town fund balance either. It's just a segment that's already been set aside for future expenses. There are other areas in our fund balance which are designated for certain purposes already. So it's not a complete elimination of the fund balance, but it is money that was set aside for this possibility, of losing the city tax revenue. And this type of phase-in will help to alleviate the tax burden for our residents, over the next 3-year cycle.
So I didn't make it to the village tax meeting yesterday. What did they come up with an increase for an increase for their taxes? Do you know?
Their manager's proposal, which now it's becoming the city council's meeting, but what was proposed to them was a 1.6% tax rate increase. They had been expecting savings. When we went into separation, they were looking at savings. So they're, again, due to inflation, due to other factors, their tax rate is looking to go up 1.5%. That's on top of, right now they're paying city taxes and town taxes. Next year they'll be paying just city taxes. But that city-only tax will be up 1.5% of what they're paying now, town and city combined.
Vote for the reduction that they were promised.
I'm not going to speak to that. But
Good man, Mark.
Any other questions?
Let me think of something.
Sure.
As far as like the health insurance, all the town employees part of the same union, whether you're on the road crew or whether you're clerical.
we have two unions. The AFSCME union covers our highway department, water sewer department, and some of our clerical staff at 81 Main Street are all under 81 Main Street's town offices, all under the AFSCME union. We also have a police union that covers patrol officers and dispatch. And then we have some non-unionized staff, department heads, manager, police chief. Certain staff are not part of the union. We historically and continue to.
Part of their health plan.
Part of the insurance.
We're all
Yes.
part of the same health plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's no real savings there.
No, we looked at it.
You don't have multiple health insurance plans.
We have two
yeah.
plans. We have it with MVP. We have two plans under that. Employees can choose which of those plans they want to go under. We did look. It's getting above my my expertise here, but the general understanding of it is where the number of employees we have, we're in a certain threshold where we have to go to the Vermont Exchange.
It's because we're under 100 employees. We have to go through the exchange. And from what I understand, that kind of limits our options a little bit. There's only 2 or 3 different plans to choose from within there. Once you reach that 100 employee threshold, there's probably more leverage and more opportunity to choose from a variety of plans. My understanding is that we switched to MVP a couple years ago. The savings that we had from there were significant, and we've kind of ridden that out over a 1 or 2 year period. But I believe that MVP is kind of adjusted and recalibrated based on the popularity of their plans. And so the pricing that I think we benefited from for fiscal year 22 and 23 are kind of going away in the next budget year as they've kind of caught up to their pricing models.
Blue Cross Blue Shield is the other provider. We did get an estimate of what it would take to go to them. It was negligible difference, about the same, and the hassle of trying to switch everybody over. We did it a few years ago because it saved us over six figures. Yeah,
Oh, when you switched.
when we switched a few years
Switched
ago.
MVP.
Yeah, we did look into one other option. Our HR director with, I believe it was Cigna, and there was some different nuances there. Would have been a little bit more complicated than what we have right now, but we took a look at it. They wouldn't even give us a bid. They took a look at some of our projections and history, and so they weren't going to give us a bid. So we basically were down to two options, and we're sticking with MVP.
You say we're looking to move out of 81 Main even though the town owns it.
We're exploring our options.
Why don't you click the city out?
The city's not there.
No.
No, it's just the town. It's completely the town.
There's the one employee, so
Oh, it isn't. So they moved already.
They weren't in. They had a few staff who were there. Like our finance departments were consolidated. The clerk's office was consolidated. As that's been pulled apart, they've left. So we have right now we're still sharing the clerk for this current year, but that comes to an end on July 1st, and she'll be moving back to the village office, city offices. So it's going to be completely town employees in that building. And we're looking at it again. We might stay there for a while, but we're looking at other options. The fire station is getting small and outdated for what it is. 81 Main Street is getting tight for what's there, and at a certain point, you can imagine people wanting to conduct business in the town of Essex. So if we were to go to that route, we'd look at selling that building, leasing that building, using that money towards something else. That's not happening next year, but it's on our horizon, it's on our radar.
So that's a consideration for 81 Main, so the police station would remain shared, right?
Correct.
So they will pay the town to
yes.
use our police.
We have a
So
10-year,
that's gonna,
we have a 10-year contract to share police. There's an option to extend.
so
We'll
that's gonna leave that in place for 10 years.
Correct, and we're splitting the police cost on a per capita basis. So Essex Junction, if you look at the whole combined population, Essex Junction has about 48% of the population. The town is 52%. So we're splitting the police cost, total cost of police on that 52, 48%. Yes.
So another question, what is what do we think our tax increase will be as a percentage?
In this coming year or beyond that?
It could be both if you can, but
Yeah,
probably don't know beyond that.
As of right now, we're looking at a 22.6% municipal property tax increase. So again, that's out of your total tax bill. That's about 25, 30% of it. For the average home, that's $350, just about. Part of the goal that I wanted to present to the select board, that the select board seems to be supportive of, is that the sooner we get this over, we can get to that more normal tax rate increase, which we've historically had. Sorry?
Bite the bullet.
Yes. Bite the bullet. Historically, we've been in that, 2, 3, 4% tax rate increase. We'd like to get back to that point. The sooner we get there, the sooner we're there. Yeah, and part of it is you want to get it over now. We talked about the fund balance. We can use that, but at a certain point, it would spike. And so we're saying, let's get that spike done in year one, as opposed to 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now, having a spike and everybody saying, what happened? Now, this is a result of separation and inflation and health insurance, but
We don't want to use all of our reserves.
correct. So, yeah, correct.
And so it's kind of the balance of trying to soften it as much as we can immediately, but still look at the long range, to try and smooth it out.
Clarify that. It's excess of
Excess.
over the 15%. It's not using the reserve, it's using.
Well, it's using reserves, but we're keeping the best practice is to have 15% of your operating budget. So if your operating budget is about $15 million, what we're proposing, to keep 15% of that in reserves. So that's for if there's a drastic emergency, if we run into some terrible event, we have money to pay for it. We can keep operating for about 2 months.
It'd be called like excess reserve.
So it's above that 15% that we would be using to keep it, keep the tax rate from being even higher.
Are we in danger of reappraisal anytime soon?
Oh, it's happening. Yep, we actually just signed a contract yesterday, and I wouldn't call it a danger, but it's coming.
Well, with the value of property these days, just about doubled or more in the last couple of years.
Yep.
That's a danger, as
Here's
far as I'm concerned.
here's how it works. So, first of all, we have a state law that says if your common level of appraisal falls below 85%, you have to do a reappraisal. Common level of appraisal, simplified explanation, is basically what are homes selling at versus what are they assessed at. And so, yeah, they've been selling for higher. We're just above that 85%. We're probably going to go below it next month, is when the numbers come out from the state. We're going to have to do a reappraisal. Once the reappraisal happens, your tax rate goes down, but your appraisal, the value of the home goes up. So you're paying about the same amount of taxes. The difference is like a capital tax. So we have a 2-cent capital tax. So those 2 cents are going to change on the value of your home. So if your home is worth, the average home right now is $280,000. For the sake of numbers, let's just say it's going to go up to $350,000. Those 2 cents are going to be going from 2 cents on $280,000 to 2 cents on $350,000. But the operating budget is still going to be, $15-16 million. So that's going to go up incrementally for inflation, contracts, cost of goods, all that stuff, no matter what. But the tax rate to cover that amount, because your home will be valued more, the tax rate will go down to raise the same amount of money. So I don't know if that alleviates the fear at all. I hope it does.
So, but you say you just signed a contract. Does this take? It must take a year or better to reappraise all the properties.
It's going to be a 2-year process. We're looking to start in June of next year. It'll run through June of 2025. So it's a 2-year process.
And then that would affect fiscal year 26 tax rate. So it's out there a bit, but that process has started because we're reaching that threshold where it's mandatory.
Mandatory.
Yep. Margaret, you had your hand?
I was just wondering what's the current status of the senior center? It's like it's sort of shared, but it's housed in the village offices, and
so we have a contract with Essex Junction that senior services will be shared through next December, along with Indian Brook, recreation programs, stuff like that. The city is getting ready to do some renovations, and it's in the city property. It's staffed by town staff. It is, and it's also. It used to be the senior center used to be kind of a third party, their own thing, but they operated out of 2 Lincoln Street, the city offices. A few years ago, town provided staff for the senior center. City continues to provide the space and the senior bus. So as the city's going through renovations, they're looking at keeping the main senior center intact. They might take some of the game room and the library for office space. We're also looking at shifting the focus of what senior services provides. So a lot of this programming right now in our senior center coordinator, our rec department, they're looking at it and seeing that there's still an interest in bingo and games and stuff like that, but there's also a lot of interest in doing yoga or going for walks. So they're looking at how to do more senior programming outside of the senior center. They're still going to need program space, and they're looking at that. That's part of the idea behind a new municipal complex, because right now we don't have any program space. But so they're looking at what are the options for program space for seniors, for other recreation activities, for community events, while still providing services to seniors that may not be in that, probably won't be in that senior center that exists right now.
I was at the city meeting yesterday. I'm not sure if I got this right. Did we give them a number for the second half? Is that what that number was that they're including?
We did.
I didn't
They're
understand it.
Yeah, so our recreation senior
Which is
programs,
December 2023.
correct.
And for the second half of the year, fiscal year, we give them a number. If they want to keep the stuff that we were currently providing, this is what they have to pay.
Just senior van. If they want to continue with the senior van, it's going to be about $38,000 for them to continue that, which the town would then get that revenue. It would help offset the tax rate increase or the tax rate.
I wasn't quite getting what they were talking about now. It makes no sense.
Whether or not they pursue that is up to them. We're going to hopefully be looking for an answer pretty soon so we can factor that in.
At the end of the meeting, I want to hear more about it. I'm recording it. I think it's listening.
Any questions? I haven't heard from you yet. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. My voice is not great for this, so I apologize.
Get a little closer, maybe. No?
I think I got the gist of everything. That's why I have no questions.
Sure. Tammy, is there anybody online who has questions?
Yeah, I'm not seeing the chat though, so I'm not sure if my chat feed is working correctly.
No, I shared it. I shared it. So I see that working.
Yeah, and there's 6 people on there. But if they have any questions, I'm not seeing.
Okay.
And I was like,
You had a bunch, you said? Any more?
So we must still be waiting for the school district to come up with their budget also
Correct.
for next year.
Not quite.
They give us
They
our,
vote on it with the city's budget. April something.
Yeah, they vote in April, so they start a little bit later than us. And again, we have no control over that. If you're concerned about the school tax rate, they're going to have their own meetings. They're going to have their own workshops.
It's happening right about now.
And we've been a little bit earlier in our time frame than usual, just because of the magnitude of the changes involved, and just to be able to figure everything out and give the public an opportunity to weigh in more too. So it's been an accelerated time frame for us.
Except for the audit.
Except for the audit, yes. I don't quite have an audit draft in yet. The auditors have been in. They were in mid to late October. So I'm hoping to get a draft of that soon.
So do you have a projected surplus for fiscal year 22 yet unaudited?
I don't have that number yet. I've been a little
Is it a plus or a minus?
hesitant to disclose. I just want to make sure that I'm in agreement with what they project.
Very important
So,
part
yeah.
that we need to know accurately.
We're optimistic that we'll have that to be able to present to the select board on the 19th, December 19th. What's that?
You promised it was in the last memo.
And then 19th.
We're planning on it. You never know, but that's the plan. We're fairly confident we're going to get the numbers.
Looking forward to that. That's the one wild.
Could you explain the whole Essex rescue thing?
Yeah, as best I can.
As best you can.
Yeah, so Essex Rescue is a nonprofit. They are not part of the town. They've been providing rescue services to the town for 50 years or more, I think. They also provide services to Essex Junction, which was part of the town. They provide services to Westford, part of Westford, part of Jericho, and Underhill. So they have five member communities. They frankly were probably overly cost effective for many years, and they're looking at adjusting their operations. They're not seeing the volunteerism they used to have. They used to be entirely volunteer. Last year they came to the town, probably about maybe 7-8 years ago. They came to the town and requested an increase, which at the time was a pretty big increase. The town phased it in. The other member communities phased it in, and the town and city combined for several years were paying about $76,000. It was $3.87 per capita. They probably should have been increasing that a little bit each year, in my opinion. They hadn't stayed about $3.87, which was a really cost-effective service. Last year, they came to the town and the other member communities and said that the costs were going up, volunteerism isn't what it is, the Medicaid reimbursements are a challenge, and they laid out a 5-year plan to increase, and and go over those 5 years, 4 or 5 years, from $3.87 per capita to $17 something per capita. There was a big hit last year. It went from the $3.87 to $10.91. It was about a 250% increase in 1 year. Everyone agreed to pay it. They do provide a good service. It was still, comparatively to the average of rescue across the state, it was still a lot less than the about $18 per capita average. We thought we were going to have a few years to phase the rest of it in. This year they requested $18 per capita. We've been having conversations, nothing against their service, but it's a big unexpected increase that coming at a time that is not a great time to have it. We've had conversations with them. I've been having conversations with the other managers and administrators in the service area about how to go forward. We're still having those conversations. It amounts to about probably about $50,000 more than we were expecting to pay this year, so it is significant. They're dealing with the inflation, they're dealing with the health insurance, a lot of the same stuff that we've been dealing with. But yeah, we've been honest with them of that's a lot, and we weren't expecting it. Whether or not we end up paying that cost and biting the bullet is to be determined. But part of it is also trying to get better control, more oversight, more representation from the municipalities on their board, more influence on what their budget looks like, how the increase is going to happen. So those are part of the things we're going to be asking for and looking at.
So just a suggestion, last week in the mail came an envelope from Essex Rescue.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like a done for money, and so people probably just toss it in the recycling bin. But what it actually is an opportunity to get, you pay $50, and then if you have to use their ambulance service, it's covered.
Yes.
And it's I don't know what the ambulance service is without that, but it's expensive.
Yes, it is.
So it's a good deal. So I don't know, you should send out notes to people saying, I've had people say, I never saw that.
Yeah.
And it just looks like, like a Red Cross and blah, blah, blah. People just asking for money. But it's actually a little contract that you hold on to.
Yep.
It's a really good deal.
Yeah.
Almost like an insurance policy.
Yeah, it's like a
subscription.
It's a subscription, yeah.
If you ever need their
One very
service,
important
Oh, I've
caveat.
used them. I've used them.
There's one very important caveat you need to remember. When emergency call goes into dispatch, it may not be Essex Rescue that comes. It'll depend on how busy they are. If they're out, it may be St. Michael. So, there's always a small risk that it won't be Essex.
They're a primary provider. If they get called out somewhere else, there's a whole public safety, state level, wherever, backup, mutual aid support. So Essex Rescue is a primary responder for Essex. But yes, if they're out, they try to run 2 ambulances at all times. If those are unavailable, we have to get backup from Williston, Essex Rescue, other providers.
I think the probability is low, but it's possible.
Did you say it was an $18 per capita increase, or just $18
To get to 18.
Across the board. Yeah. Up from right now, this year we're paying $10.91 per capita. So there's projected or proposed to go up to $18.
Oh, I'm sure they've got huge expenses.
Oh yeah, yeah. And again,
Even if they are volunteer.
yeah, and they do have they're providing they're moving towards more of a staffing model. That's part of it. They want to be able to provide that service 24/7. They're finding that they need staff to do that, which is a cost. And again, it's the service has been great. No complaints about the service. It's just the timing of it and expectations of it. And it's a rough year for us.
Would you
Again,
agree that their biggest problem seems to be getting reimbursed from the insurance companies in areas? Something like that seems to be the biggest problem.
I can't speak as I know it's a problem for
At
them.
the meeting, they said it. You said it. With Medicaid reimbursement.
That is a problem. I don't know if it's the biggest problem, but it's a problem for them. It's a challenge for them. Yeah.
Remember, they show up and if the person isn't insured.
It comes out of your pocket. Matter of fact, from my experience, most ambulance rides are not covered by insurance. Most ambulance rides come out of your pocket.
That was it. I never recall that. Was I can't remember exactly, but I think that was the thing.
We'll give you a break. Go around. If you want to tap back in. Any other thoughts, questions, comments?
Hurry up with the audit.
Okay, yes.
It's coming.
That number is crucial. Every $100,000 has to get put towards the tax code.
Sure.
Locks down the percentage by 1%. It'd be helpful.
I guess I haven't paid attention, so now is there separate select boards for the city and the town?
Yes, the city has a city council. So the town select board had always covered the entire town, including Essex Junction. It happened that when separation went through, all of those town select board members were residents of the town outside the village, so they all remained on. Essex Junction has always had the board of trustees, which has covered Essex Junction matters and Essex Junction specific things. That board of trustees became the city council. So they are completely separate now. There was always an Essex Junction board, but I guess I could say the town select board's focus or area of coverage has decreased. It's probably the way to say it. We're doing this again on Saturday morning. It's going to be entirely electronic and remote. You'll get to see my office at home, wherever Dan works.
I'll decide.
Find a good spot somewhere. It'll be on Zoom. It's going to be at 9 o'clock or 10? 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. Again, we've got another select board meeting happening on regular board meeting December 19th on Monday. Those meetings start at 6:30. We're going to have another budget workshop. We're trying to get some more information about insurance rates, Essex Rescue, the audit. We'll have some more financial information on the 19th. And yeah, please encourage. Thanks for coming out today. Really nice to see some people and hear some questions because it's been pretty quiet. So we hope to hear from folks.
The increase that the rescue squad is asking for, has that been included in your 22%
Yes.
projected?
It is, yeah. It falls under, it's called our Health and Human Services line. We have different departments. And our contribution to Essex Rescue is in the operating budget each year.
Does the town, do we buy fuel in bulk per month?
We do.
For all the trucks and vehicles and whatnot. I mean, you're not just filling up the bread and bottle every day.
No. We have a station up at the Public Works facility, and yeah, all our police cruisers, fire, Public Works, our pool vehicles for administrative staff, everyone fills up there.
Great.
Yep.
River Road Beverage. All right.
If there's anyone else, I guess we'll call it a day and hope to see you all at future meetings. Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Great.
So you guys are holding up pretty well so far. I think we all miss Sarah and we all miss our former public works guy.
Dennis. Yeah.
Dennis.
Um,
Dennis.
We do too. Dennis is still our new public works director, is Aaron Martin. He's been with the town for 15 years. He's been the assistant director. He stepped in great. Dennis is still working with us, so Aaron calls Dennis the intern, our newest intern.
All right.
And yeah, we do miss Sarah, but that's not a slight against Dan at all. Dan's jumped right in. He's been great. He knows his stuff, and we've contracted with Sarah to help us with the budget.
So I
So
went back and I clicked that.
she's offloading a lot of her knowledge onto Dan, and we're in good shape. We are. We've lost some good people, but we're in really good shape.
We want to see everybody get a final report in.
And we've lost Evan, but we don't miss him.
I miss Evan. I like Evan. Yeah,
Okay.
but he's doing well too. He's down in South Carolina. He retired down there.
They have staff.
Yeah, I'm hoping to have a trip.
All right, then. Well, thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for coming out.
Good to meet you a little more formally than Monday. So.
Right.
Things here and there.
Tim, are we still on? Am I just?
Yeah, no, I
Thanks,
think
everybody.
I did ask online, the chat is working.
Oh.
I had Shannon test it for me, but
Okay.
I don't see any responses. So.
All right.
Alrighty, Glenn Green.
Thank you. Thank you.
So have you guys been in the art town?
I have, yeah.